Welcome to Music She Missed, the podcast where I try to get my best friend caught up on some of the most popular songs and artists that impact our lives. I'm Allison.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I missed all the music.
Hey, Rachel. So this week, I have a little question for you that relates to the artist. If you would share a little story or anecdote about a treasured beach memory. Could be a family vacation, could be honeymoon, could be...
Beach, okay. So during my childhood, I was vacationing in the Outer Banks, North Carolina with my aunt and uncle, my two cousins, and my grandparents. And we were enjoying kind of the summertime and the beach. So my two female cousins and my younger sister and me, 4 of us in all. We made these mermaid tails and would kind of not move so the mermaid tails would stay intact. So yeah, that was a fun beach moment.
Do you have a picture of this?
I do. I look really dorky. I'm black.
Yeah, wait, how old are you in this
middle
picture?
school, I think.
Oh, yeah, that definitely changes the image.
Bangs, braces, and I just had this goofy smile on my face. So yeah, but let's not imagine that part. Let's just imagine the mermaid tails.
It sounds like a sweet memory, though.
Yeah, I love my cousins, and I have lots of fun family memories with them and growing up with them. So yeah, so beach. What are you talking about? Are we doing the Beach Boys? Is it really? Oh, I actually know the Beach Boys.
We didn't get to do the big reveals. We have to pretend. So feign like you don't know what's about to come. Okay, Rachel, here we go.
Okay.
So the band this week has to do with the beach. Do you have any idea who it might be?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, let's do the big reveal. Let's do the drum roll. Here we go.
Here we go. It's the Beach Boys. Oh, wait, it was your turn to say it.
Okay, so Rachel, you obviously, I did not really hide what we were going to be talking about
but
today.
I love the Beach Boys so here's another little story, anecdote, whatever. I think my oldest brother gave it to me for birthday, a CD of the Beach Boys. It was the greatest hits. And then when we were doing middle school, kind of like mentoring ministry with the church, we did this lip sync thing, and one of the songs was the Beach Boys.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that as an adult leading a youth group, you did like a lip sync contest
with a bunch of middle
Beach Boys
schoolers,
song.
and we used, I think, one Beach Boys song.
That's fun.
So yeah.
So you already know who the Beach Boys are.
I think that's 4 guys, but I don't know their names.
Okay, that's fine. We can get to that after the break. Can you name the song you did the lip sync to?
Oh gosh, this was like over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Ouch. I honestly can't remember, but I remember having a lot of fun with the middle school girls. So.
Okay, can you name any Beach Boys hits?
Let's Go Surfing Now. I think that's one of the titles.
Okay. Not quite. That's all right. Surfing is a big theme.
Yeah. Surfing, girls, cars.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just list a couple and you can say yes or pass, okay? Just so we can see how much of their catalog you're familiar with.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of cars, Little Deuce Coupe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Girls, California Girls.
Okay, I feel like I know this one, but I'm getting confused with another song that I might know.
Okay.
I think I know the song. I'm not sure. So it's a half pass.
Okay. Wouldn't It Be Nice? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. God Only Knows.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah, and we'll do one more. Good Vibrations.
Good. Yes.
Okay, so you actually already know probably the major Beach Boys hits.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun week.
So, Rachel, we know that you already know a fair amount about the Beach Boys. Do you want to give a numerical, quantifying number of your understanding of the Beach Boys? 1 being you've never heard of them before, and 10 being they're your favorite?
I think it's a little bit different because the CD that I did get from my brother was the greatest hits one, and that kind of helped get their greatest hits.
Yeah, you know all the songs most people would know.
Yeah, 7.58. Yeah.
I think that's a good rating.
It is. Looking forward to this week.
I chose this band specifically because I was so worried about last week's band and that you were going to hate it. And so I was like, well, I'll give her something I know she'll like.
I didn't hate
but
last
you didn't
week,
hate it. So,
but I didn't love them.
Right.
But I learned to appreciate what I did learn.
Well, maybe with this Beach Boys playlist, you will hear some songs you don't already know. Maybe find some new favorites. And we will also get to talk a lot after the break about their history and their influence, which you probably are not as familiar with.
Yeah, I don't know much of history of bands. I just know that one CD, that's it.
So let's talk about your homework.
All right. Well, I listened to the Spotify playlist that you create. You actually put them in order of the dates.
I usually attempt to put them in some kind of chronological order so you can hear their musical development. Yes.
And so I listened to Spotify 1 hour for 7 days. And then we take a break, which is like just for a few seconds for our audience. But for me, it's a full week of listening. And then I give my reaction.
Yeah. So let's do that.
Let's do it.
Welcome back. Rachel, you spent the last week listening to some of the greatest hits by the Beach Boys.
I did, and I actually had a lot of fun.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
Well, so I want to say something first.
Okay.
I am a cold weather loving person. I love to ski.
Yes.
I love to go hiking in the snow. I love building snowmen and just playing in the snow. But this week kind of confused me. I was like, wait a second. I love winter. But now I'm starting to love summer. Maybe surfing.
The sounds of the summer.
And the sounds of the ocean and going island hopping in Kokomo and the Florida Keys and things like that. So, yeah.
So they made you long for
the
summer months.
Summer months, and which is very odd because I always long for the winter months.
Well, you're in good company because I hate the cold. But let's talk about the Beach Boys.
Yes.
So, in the first half, you said that you didn't really know anything about the band. Like, you knew their songs from having, like, a greatest hits kind of summer album.
Yeah.
But you don't really know anything about who they are and their history and how they've impacted pop culture and music. Is that correct?
Yeah, I knew that they liked girls, surfing, and California.
And that's what's really interesting is, like, the first half of this playlist is surfing and California and girls and cars and all those things.
Yeah.
But the Beach Boys actually are important for their later music that isn't girls and cars.
Really?
Yeah. So the album of Pet Sounds, which I included on your playlist in its entirety,
Yes.
is not the same as the first half of that playlist.
I did see...
Thematically.
Yeah, I did hear a little bit of a difference, but I still heard them, and that's what I loved about it.
Well, that's what's cool, and we're going to talk about that. But let's start.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's start with their history. So they formed in 1961, and the majority of the Beach Boys of the original lineup, were family members.
Really? Okay.
3 brothers: Brian, Dennis, and Carl Wilson. Their cousin Mike Love, and then a friend named Al Jardine.
Oh, so that just random non-family member.
But otherwise, I mean, family.
So wait a second, that's 5, not 4 like I initially thought.
Correct. There are 5 Beach Boys. Unfortunately, the Wilson boys, their father was very abusive.
Oh.
And they had a very, like, difficult home life. And Mike Love talks a lot about.
So this is pre-60s when they were built and grouped up together?
Right. They were born in the 40s, right? So they're teens in the 50s.
So they had a childhood was pre-60s.
Yeah. So 1961 is when their first album, like their first recording.
Gotcha.
And even though their father was a terrible human being, he did help them get the Capitol record deal. Oh. And so he was very important in making them become a band. In fact, because of his involvement in their music, there's like evidence of his like verbal abusive behavior on the recordings, even as his sons are creating some of the most creative and interesting music of the time. So they eventually fired him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
Wow.
a lot of emotional guilt and trauma that will come up later.
Really? Wow. Like, I just want to state for those who are listening, Music She Missed is not a fan of abusive families.
No one should be a fan of abusive families.
This is just sad.
It is sad.
And I really like this band. Like, they're so upbeat, and I wouldn't see that. You kind of caught me off guard of like, I never knew about this history stuff.
Well, but we saw a similar story with the Jackson 5.
And that's what I was just about to bring up.
Yeah.
With Daddy Jackson. I don't know what their term for him, but okay, Daddy Jackson is what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. And he was not very loving to his boys.
Right.
And so this is just sad. It just ultimately is super sad.
It is. In fact, Brian Wilson is mostly deaf in one ear. And there are rumors that it was possibly caused by like his
father.
Yeah.
What? Wow. Where's the mom in this?
I don't know.
I'm guessing she was just silent because it just went on until the boys fired him.
I don't want to make
I'm super glad that the boys were able to fire him. So that's great.
Continuing on. Musically, they were influenced by a lot of American rock people like Chuck Berry. In fact,
know who that is.
Well, we will get to him eventually. The song "Surfing USA" is actually so much like Berry's song "Sweet Little 16" that they gave Chuck Berry a writing credit for it, like musically. So,
but they wrote it. But it's so similar, so they
right because a lot of these little rock melodies and riffs and stuff are the same kind of chord progressions or the same kind of
yes, they
standard.
Do love the guitar.
Yeah, but the Beach Boys actually did invent their own little genre of what we call like California rock, right? Really? And their name even from the beginning wasn't the Beach Boys. The record label actually changed it to the Beach Boys after the success of their first couple songs that were about surfing. So
that's cute. What was the initial name?
Like the Pendletons or the
Oh yeah, that doesn't work. Sorry, I can only hear them as the Beach Boys.
Well, anyway, like I said earlier, there were a lot of pop hits in the early 60s, and those are the songs that you
So they wouldn't be categorized as pop then?
No, yeah, they're pop.
But you said California rock, so I guess interesting. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay.
I got so excited about them.
So, but they do musically evolve. Mm-hmm. So, later on in the 60s, Brian Wilson really takes charge of the group in terms of their musicality and their creativity.
Is the cousin?
No, this is one of the three brothers. So Brian was the creative
mindset leader.
Yes, he's a true innovator of music, and that's where it's his leadership that you see the Beach Boys move away from a sort of formulaic California surf song and into what you see in Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations, bringing in orchestral,
more elaborate in their music, especially in their instruments and beyond
instruments, in vocal harmonies, in musical like lyric themes. Brian Wilson is really the genius behind
the Beach Boys.
The Beach Boys in terms of them not just being a formulaic surf group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about Pet Sounds.
Okay, let's talk about that album.
Well, first I want to know what you thought about it.
I liked them.
Because a lot of those songs, I'm sure you've never heard before.
Yes.
I mean, there are instrumental tracks on there. There are some really unusual pieces.
That is correct. I hadn't really gotten into the Pet Sounds album. But when I heard them for the first time, I loved them. And I could see the similarities of the Beach Boys that I already knew and that I already fell in love with. And that because I was already on that train, I was just chugging along. And I really enjoyed the genius of Brian in his thought process and his artwork. Bottom line, his artwork was beautiful.
It is. And so Pet Sounds came out in 66, I believe. It was Brian Wilson's answer to the Beatles album Rubber Soul. So
really,
yeah. So he listened to Rubber Soul.
I bet you love that.
Well, he listened to Rubber Soul, and Rubber Soul is also a creative album for its time. And so he starts writing this thing to respond to it, right? Huh. And so when Pet Sounds came out, the Beatles, especially Paul McCartney, listened to Pet Sounds, and they were like, "Well, we've got to beat this, right?" Because Pet Sounds was like this amazing creative thing. It inspired them to create the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club
Really?
Band.
I bet you love that part.
Well, you can hear a lot of similarities in Pet Sounds. You hear them use like dogs barking or different kinds of horns.
Yeah.
And you can see that same trend continue. There are even like specific Beatles songs where you can like see that direct influence.
Using non-instrumental sounds in music.
But the other thing about it is using the studio itself as an instrument. So before this point, before Pet Sounds, people weren't really using the studio. They were just kind of writing the songs and recording them, maybe editing them a little bit.
But they're not using it as an instrument itself.
Right. So Brian Wilson and the Beatles producer George Martin were among the first people to consider the studio like its own thing.
It was a separate entity. It was like another band member.
Yes, and that's why it took 10 months to make Pet Sounds. And it
it took 10 months.
And it cost $70,000, which at the time
That's a lot of money back then.
Was an insane amount of money for one album.
Yeah.
And the label hated it because it departed from the kind of sunny Beach Boys hits and the formulas of the past. In fact, Brian even had conflict within the band, especially with Mike Love, about this.
That's the cousin or the friend?
The cousin. To have this conflict, Mike was basically saying, don't F with the formula, while Brian is trying to do things that are creative and new.
Let's expand from the formula.
Yes, exactly. So some of the songs that are on that album, for people that can't check out the playlist immediately, are Wouldn't It Be Nice, Sloop John B, God Only Knows. God Only Knows is actually really cool. It only took them an hour to write it.
Really? I really like that one.
It's really beautiful. Paul McCartney said it's one of his favorite songs of all time. But it was weird. Brian he was afraid to release it because it has the word God in it. And up until that point, nobody had released a song that referred to God unless it was like God Bless America or something kind of like religiously undertoned. And but they obviously did release it. And a few stations in the southern United States banned it for blasphemy, but it was otherwise well received. So it's like a little stepping point in a new musical thing that hadn't been done on the radio before. And to complete my Pet Sounds, just explain to you why this album is so important. Brian was able to use the album to experiment with bringing in different genres of music, pop ballads, psychedelic influence, you can hear a little bit. You hear the harpsichord, you hear new instruments. So this album was considered by Rolling Stone magazine to be the #2 best album of all time.
Really? #2?
Yep.
Wow. I think I like that because my favorite number is #2.
It's a weird thing to have.
It is. It's my favorite number.
But yeah, so Pet Sounds is really important. And so I put it on there, just the whole thing.
Did you know that it was that important before you put it on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
I did. I hadn't researched all the different aspects of it, but I knew that it was an inspiration for the Beatles, and I knew that it was one of the most highly regarded albums. So, but I learned a few more facts about the details of how they produced it.
It sounds like the Beach Boys and the Beatles were friends.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like musical geniuses, I would say like they're kind of creatively drawing from each other, and kind of this whole 60s growth in music at the time and creativity.
Gotcha.
Both of those bands were obviously really important and influential.
So one of the songs that I kind of want to talk about the lyrics is Wouldn't It Be Nice?
Okay. It's a lovely song.
It is. I really like how it talks about what they really want, but also recognizes that what they really want is not realistic.
But what's funny about it is that this song comes a little bit later, so they're actually not adolescent teens anymore.
They're like older gentlemen.
Right. So they're kind of they're talking about the frustrations of youth, but outside of that umbrella.
Outside of that world. But really, they already know that, okay, summers back then, they're only last for 3-4 months. And even though you do want, summers to have kisses that last forever and, the life that you're holding each other close all night long, and they just know it's not realistic, but they still long for it. And I thought that was kind of cool lyrically. So, yeah.
Do you have any other lyric questions?
Yeah. Help me, Rhonda.
Okay.
Who is Rhonda?
So I looked this one up for you, and according to Brian Wilson, Rhonda is not a real person.
Oh.
Sorry. It's just a name that sounds good in the song. Thematically, the song's about them asking a girl to help him get over a different girl.
Huh.
Right?
So
But
I need to tell
Rhonda
you...
isn't anyone real.
I need to tell you a secret
Okay.
wanting of mine.
Okay.
So...
Desire.
a secret desire out of music, I guess.
Oh, okay. What is it?
I want a song that has the word Rachel in it. And I don't know a lot of songs out there, obviously, because I'm the one that missed all the music. But there's this song that has Rhonda, there's Diana.
There's Allison.
There's an Allison song. Yeah. See, but there is no Rachel song, at least I know of.
Well, I will keep an eye out for
And
them.
so the only song that I can think of is I Have Brown Eyes, and I think there's a Brown Eyes song.
Brown Eyed Girl is a song. Yeah.
Okay, that's the song. Okay, who sings that?
Van Morrison.
Okay, I have no clue. I didn't know that. So after hearing the song "Help Me, Rhonda," I'm like, I like this song, but it makes me think about I don't have a song out there with the name Rachel.
I think that might be a blessing in disguise, because when I meet somebody named Rhonda or Barbara Ann or any of these other...
Or Lucy, for Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Well, that one's a little bit different, but songs like that, people are like, oh, like the song, or Layla, for example, so many names like that, and people are like, oh, like the song. And then every time you meet somebody, they bring up the song, whether it's a song you like or not, whether it's an artist you like or not. So maybe you should just be lucky that people just remember your name just for you and not for a melody from the 60s.
No, I still want a song anyway.
Okay. Well, speaking about songs, we should move on with their history.
Yes, please do. I want to learn more.
So after Pet Sounds is Good Vibrations. This song came out just a couple years later.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like that song.
And this would be considered the masterpiece of Wilson. It took 6 months and $16,000 to make just that one song.
Just that one song?
Mm-hmm. It
Wow.
uses instruments that have never really been heard in pop music to this point, like sleigh bells, the theremin. Do you know what the theremin is?
No, what
It's
instrument is
the one that's like woo woo, and it's kind of people usually use it in spooky.
Oh, okay.
That's a theremin. So using new instruments, and apparently to make this song, he recorded 90 hours of tape that he then spliced and reduced and put into this 3-minute song.
So this was back in the 60s when they didn't have that
amazing
digital editing software.
Yes.
And he was
laborious.
just taking actual recording tape and taping it together.
Yes.
Wow, Brian, props to you. If you are listening to this podcast, wow.
I'll be surprised. But
me too.
So Good Vibrations. But once again, some of the members of the Beach Boys weren't very interested in this, and the label wasn't as interested in this, because they wanted the formula, they wanted the high selling things. But things were changing musically, and people weren't as interested in what had maybe helped the Beach Boys become popular in the first place. And on top of all of this, the members were experimenting with drugs, and Brian had a lot of
Really?
like psychological problems. He became like very reclusive and pulled away from the band.
I thought they're still playing now.
Well, they are, and we get to a happy
Oh.
ending, but in the 70s and the 80s, there's a lot of
70s and 80s.
yeah. I mean, they had one like random hit with Kokomo, which is kind of like a fluke in the 80s.
Isn't that Kermit sings that song too?
I don't know.
I feel like I think of
Probably.
Sesame Street Kermit the Frog.
You mean the Muppets?
Yes, the Muppets, but aren't they on Sesame? No, never
Nope.
mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gotta get my puppets ready.
The next podcast is called
Me learning about puppets.
Television Shows that Rachel doesn't know about. Anyway, so by the time like Kokomo came out, Mike Love was actually the only remaining member.
They're replacing all of them?
Yeah, some of them, well, Dennis died.
Oh, how did
And
he
Carl
die?
died. He died like a drowning.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Was there drugs involved?
Alcohol.
Oh.
Yeah. Carl died, I think, of like cancer, smoking, you know.
Oh.
So at that point, yeah, the Beach Boys just kind of turned into a nostalgia band. And people would go see them or see the lineup, but it wasn't
They didn't have the full set of guys.
exactly. Eventually, Brian Wilson's able to recover and he starts recording again. He has a solo career and he even went back and took some of the unfinished tracks. There was an album, so the album that was supposed to come out after Pet Sounds was called Smile, but it never got finished. And so some of the songs from that are on Smiley Smile, which is, and then some of them are on the following album, Surf's Up in 1971. But a lot of them just kind of like is like an unfinished work. And so in 2004, Brian Wilson finished it and released it
That's
as
cool.
what he had, his original vision for the album from the 60s. So
Yeah.
like 30 years later.
Cool.
Yeah, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they've had some reunions and things like that.
That's
So-
really cool that they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, they've influenced a lot of different musicians. Obviously, like we were talking about, at the contemporary level, they were influencing other musicians like in the 60s. But Smiley Smile and Smile particularly are really popular with like some indie rock musicians. And so a lot of musicians now look to Brian Wilson's creativity, and they created a lot and helped influence, I guess, a lot of popular indie music now. Like bands like Neutral Milk Hotel.
Don't know who they are.
I know. Apples in Stereo.
Don't know who they are.
Of Montreal.
Pass.
Okay, well, people who are into indie rock will recognize these names.
And not me.
And-
But I will hopefully learn.
They'll see that the Beach Boys played a big part in influencing music that's even come out in our generation.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
So I have a question for you.
I hope I can answer it.
I know you can. You're always so smart. So you're saying that they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they've influenced a lot. Have they gotten like high sales? Have they gotten like awards and things like that? What kind of stuff have they accomplished?
Well, they definitely had high sales. They had lots of number one hits in their early days, the beach stuff. You know, Pet Sounds had mixed reviews at the time. A lot of their like more creative things were not as selling as highly at the time. It was a little bit ahead of their time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not until now, looking back, that people appreciate them, and to that degree. So no, they don't have a lot of awards in terms of like Grammys or that kind of stuff. Most of it is looking back later, you know, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like saying best album, kind of just looking on their history and seeing how important they were.
Gotcha. Cool. Good to know.
So I'm curious what you thought of the Beach Boys as you've expanded your knowledge about them and your so getting into some of their more artistic tracks.
Yeah.
Like, how would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being they're awful and 10 being they're your favorite.
Well, I really do like the Beach Boys prior to Music She Missed Week. So I would still rate them pretty high. From what I learned and how much they influenced certain things, I didn't know the relationship with the Beatles. I thought that was really kind of cool. Kind of bummed about their dad.
Don't let that influence
But that won't,
your decision.
Yeah, that won't influence my decision. Still bummed about it, though. I would give them an 8.5.
8.5. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
I would encourage you to check out Brian Wilson's Smile.
Yeah, I want to look into that.
I wish if I had known that you'd already heard all of their major hits, I probably would have done like a Beach Boys B-sides thing and done a lot more unique songs, so it all would have been new to you. But I would encourage you to check that album out for sure.
That's so cool. Thanks, Allison. I appreciate this week.
I'm glad you had a good week. I encourage our audience to join you in your journey by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, and checking out our Spotify playlists as well for the Beach Boys and future episodes.
And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks so much and have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.